made many friends there. They continued their passion for the outdoors with boating and camping. Enjoyed the many places from Cowichan into the parks around Port Alberni. They made memories for the girls. Sprout Lake, Long Beach, Tofino. Tofino itself became a favorite place to take visiting family friends from the prairies. It was in Cowichan that Crystal remembers the ultimate evidence of Eunice's phobia for mice. A bat got into their house. A mouse with wings. How unfair! She couldn't even escape to a chair. With frantic, high-pitched calls for Al to kill the monster, Eunice shooed the girls into the bathroom and stuffed towels under the door. I wouldn't be surprised if she actually locked the door.
She did.
I figured that was a good guess. You never know what that might be able to do. Eunice was always the cook of her home. She loved to bake, and her efforts yielded spectacular treats and staples. One of Crystal's favorite memories of school years was walking to her home, and about 3 or 4 houses away from their own, she began to smell fresh bread. She figured that other children walking down that same street must have been rather jealous. Crystal knew what those aromas meant. Fresh bread buns, still hot from the oven, slathered with butter and homemade strawberry jam. Boy, that's getting hungry. After about 16 years at the co-op, Al and Eunice accepted a ministry role at the Baptist church camp, Camp Quanos, in nearby Crofton. For 14 years, Al took care of the maintenance, drove the camp bus, cut the grass, fixed toilets, everything and anything to keep the camp running well and serving the children. Eunice was just as busy serving young people. She was the registrar. She also made grocery runs and did whatever she could to keep camp running smoothly. It was in their kind of Cowichan Valley Crofton years that the girls grew up. I'm assuming, I didn't hear this from stories, but I'm assuming they went through those dreaded teenage years and one by one left the nest to find careers and establish their own homes. In that time, our Daniel met Crystal when he attended a weekend camp, or a weekend event at Camp Quanos, at the same time that Crystal was home, visiting her parents. Well, they met and initiated friendship, and he worked hard at a long-distance courtship, and they were married in February 1982. Crystal became mom to Andy, Carly, and Jesse, and a huge blessing to our extended family. She was literally the best possible answer to our prayers for Daniel and his children. I don't know if Eunice and Al had ever heard of Sabre before, but now they had a reason to visit and explore our community. They were facing another transition. Their time at Camp Quanos was coming to an end. Would Sabre be a good next move? In time, they were able to buy their home on McMillan in the village and began winding up their tenure at Camp Quanos. Jake was born about that, Daniel and Crystal's son, and Eunice came to help out, staying initially in an unfinished house, or unfurnished, I should say, house for a few days. In the early years here in Sayward, Al worked at the smokeless burner down at the Dryland Sort until he retired, and Eunice cared for Blaine and Brittany only, while Dwayne and Shelley were at work. From the early years in Sayward until a few days ago, Eunice was an active member of our church, Sayward Christian Fellowship. She and Al brought to our fellowship the maturity of their long walk with the Lord. For several years, Al served on our board chairman and became a regular contributor with his musical skill. We miss his bass guitar in our congregational singing. Eunice faithfully prepared the elements for our communion services. And Eunice was one of the main leaders of our church social committee. She loved planning events that brought us all together and often introduced us to our neighbors and our community. Eunice noticed along about that time that returnable cans and bottles often got left at the docks, off the boats there, and they would be scattered all over the place by the wind and seagulls. And then there was the people who tossed their bottles and cans into the ditches, and they all became an eyesore. Even
at ball games. They were just often litter. Well, Eunice saw this as an opportunity to clean up the neighborhood and save money for the expenses of the social committee at church. So Eunice set up collecting barrels at the wharf. She and Diane Mason, her friend and neighbor, could be seen almost every day walking the road to the wharf, picker in one hand, the bag in the other, as they got their exercise and cleaned up the roadways. Our church members also collected returnables and delivered bags to Eunice. Her greenhouse was seldom usable for gardening. Usually it was filled to bursting with mountains of bagged cans and bottles. Although I'm sure that Eunice got a little overwhelmed as she faced the unending task of sorting, counting, etc., she always greeted a delivery of more bags with a cheerful, thankful greeting to the donor. She labored faithfully at sorting, sometimes with helpers, sometimes alone. She did this all in service to others. She didn't do it for herself. Every penny went into providing good times for others. The money she gathered paid for musicians at her Christmas banquets. And this way she brought joy to us. Giving joy to others brought joy to Eunice, and that was enough for her. Eunice had a keen sense of style. Her instinct for what looked right made her a consistently classy dresser. She liked to dress for the occasion, and Al encouraged her to enjoy this gift, often by giving her clothes that suited her. He was proud to escort his lady in all of her refinery. As I remember Eunice, I think of hospitality, the many times we gathered in their home for Bible study, for board meetings, or program at night of listening to the Gaither music programs, etc. Her home was always immaculate, and her door open to welcome us in. She loved to bake, and there was always a spread of delicious treats. She also regularly contributed baking for the coffee time after church. Coffee time is my favorite time of our Sunday gatherings. Eunice and Al made friends everywhere they lived and kept in contact long after they moved to a new town. Al loved country music, Eunice loved the Gaither family music, and they had music playing in the home most of the day, thanks to Sirius Radio. As Al's health began to wane, Eunice took care of him. She encouraged him as he joined Dan in the Springer Creek gang. Al played bass guitar and kept the beat going. And Beth noted that despite the fact that Al was getting weaker, his bass playing was getting better. Whenever and wherever the band played, Eunice was there, helping Al get ready. Again, Eunice putting someone else first, helping Al shine in the music he loved. She loved her family with true practical self-sacrifice, caring for their needs before her own. Al's death on November 28, 2020, after 64 years of marriage, was a very sad time. That good-looking guy had indeed been the love of her whole life. I remember Eunice as a kind and loving person who, it seems to me, gave her opinion thoughtfully, and even disagreement was restrained. She had a meek and gentle spirit, but she was not a wimp. Eunice experienced 2 significant health issues in my memory. About 19 years ago, she was diagnosed with cancer, and the original prognosis was not encouraging. Her original round of chemo was devastating. Everything, even her eyes, ached. She was ready to throw in the towel. It wasn't worth it. Well, thankfully, the physicians were able to adjust her treatments, and Eunice soldiered on, fighting cancer to a standstill. Those years of remission enriched us all. It was always a time of relief and celebration when her annual checkups found her cancer-free. Eunice showed her whalebone toughness a couple of years back when she fell and broke her hip. She managed to drag herself to the phone and call for help. But her doors were locked. So she ooched her way to the deck door and managed to reach the latch, then sit waiting for Crystal and the ambulance crew. She had surgery but was still in constant pain, it seemed, until the second operation corrected the issue and cause. And although she answered truthfully when asked, yes, she was in pain, I don't remember any woe is me from Eunice. I know I'm leaving gaps in Eunice's story. There are so many stories, so much more we could say about her outstanding character. She has been the matriarch of her family and a matriarch in our church family, a leader worthy of imitation. We have lost her presence, but not her person. She lives on in our memories, in her words of wisdom, and she lives on in the people of her life that she influenced. What a blessing she has been. We're going to miss her. At this time, I'm going to ask Dan and Beth, they're going to come and sing for us, God of the Mountain. This song was requested by Eunice for her memorial service as it